gonna get started. First off, I guess before we hop into anything, I guess we'll just do a real quick refresher of basic controls. If you guys are hopping in fresh off the boat with like zero idea of what the game is like or how to play, I'm just gonna run through it real quick again. So let's pop this open. Alright, so Pokken Tournament is a arena fighter and 2D fighter hybrid. You start off in field phase, and if you land certain things, you go into duo phase, which becomes a more 2D fighter. And the controls are quite simple. To move, you use the D-pad, got left, right, forwards and towards. And in duo phase, you have left, right, crouch, and high stance. So you can jump with the B button, and then your attack buttons are Y, X, and A for light, heavy, and special respectively. The objective is of course to knock your opponent down to 0 health, and to do that you've got your attacks, and along on your left you can also see 2 meters. 1 meter, the glowing white half semicircle, that's your burst meter. When it's full, you can activate Synergy Burst, which lets you power up for a little bit. And while in this mode, if you press the buttons again, left and right, you'll do your super move. Pretty simple. And then above that is your support gauge. So you see a little icon right now, it's Frogadier. If you press the left button, you'll call the frog, and you'll come in and do a little assist. So you've got a lot of assist characters to pick from, and you can basically slot them in and you can do some cool stuff with them. And also you block with the right button. You've got a single button block. You don't have to worry about crouch blocking or stand blocking. You don't have to worry about left-right mix-ups. This thing blocks everything. Alright, gonna get into the meat and bones of things. So, here's the first thing we're gonna teach you guys. Numpad Notation. The Numpad Notation is the way that we write out our inputs and our combos. Similar to, say, Smash. If you're coming from a Smash background, you have terminology like forward air, back air, up air. They're shortened to things like fair, bear, and where. We have a similar way of shortening our move inputs and our combos. So Numpad Notation is a popular form of notation used in a lot of different fighting games, particularly in Japan. It's based on the numpad of a phone or a keyboard. So if you've got a keyboard in front of you, you look down, look over the numbers. That's how we represent our cardinal directions. So as you can see, top left, we've got forward, backwards, neutral, and side. It's a little bit different from dual phase. We don't use numbers in that situation because it's a little less important. But that one's pretty simple to remember. All you gotta remember is forward, backward, side, and neutral. And then for dual phase, using our numpad notation, you can see 2 is down, 4 is back, 4 is to the left, 6 is to the right, and 8 is up. So whether you're facing left or right, the numbers will flip accordingly. Although we usually assume that you're facing right when it comes to move names. So counter attack, X plus A. This is your default counter attack. Everybody has this. You press X and E together and you'll start glowing blue, and you'll absorb all incoming hits for a period of time before unleashing an attack. During your counter attack, if you press R in the direction, you will be able to dash cancel. It's a very useful movement too, and a counter to zoning. This is your counter attack, X plus A. You can see the inputs on the bottom. X plus A, it's a counter attack. Very simple. There you go. So they absorb attacks when they come in. But what if you want to cancel it early? Well, if you hold this button down, you'll do a full charge attack. But if you hold this and then tap R in the direction, you'll cancel it early. This allows you to reposition while absorbing some attacks. It's vulnerable when you're dashing forward or backward, so you can't just keep throwing this out endlessly. You will get smacked at some point. But, for example, So you see full charge CA, you just get smacked. But if you want to absorb these fireballs, let's do that again. Like so. So it's it's very useful if you're trying to get in on someone who's trying to zone you. You can use it to absorb fireballs and move your way in. So it's pretty simple, but very powerful. And you can counter attack dash cancel not just forward, but to the left and to the right as well in feud. You're not restricted. You can also counter attack backwards. So basically, you can dash cancel in any direction. In duo, it's a little more limited because you can only counter attack dash cancel forward and backwards. Yeah, you can do it forward and backward. But it's still very useful for playing footsies. And of course, you can use CADCs for mix-ups. For example, if you try to make someone with full charge CA, you hit them and then they crumple. They don't want to get hit by that, so they'll probably be standing there holding their block. So you hit that, doesn't make much difference. But now you can do mix-ups with the dash cancel. So, for example, CADC, dash forward, grab. You scare the opponent into thinking you're gonna hit them with the full charge CA. And then you cancel forward, and you grab them. This is one of the most simple mix-ups you can learn, but it makes it very powerful. Just be careful because if you go for it all the time, people will start taking your grabs. So you don't want to do that too much. So, let's talk about grabs. You guys probably know about this, but if you hit someone with Y and B, you will grab them, and it bypasses block. And certain characters also have command grabs, which act the same. If you learned in the basic tutorial, you probably know about the attack triangle. Attack speed grabs, grab speed counters, and counter speed attacks. So let's hop into the game and demonstrate this real quick. There you go. Yeah. So someone tries to grab you on wake up, you press a button to tech it, you get reset back to neutral. This is a throw tech. So, as you can see, it gets you out of the grab, but it kind of just resets you back to neutral. Nobody really has any advantage when this happens. Let's say you don't want to just break a grab. Let's say you want to actually beat the grab and get through them. Like you want to completely go through the grab instead of just resetting back to neutral. Well, you can. Because certain moves have this property called Throw Crush. Alright, so the Lucario thinks I'm gonna grab him. He presses that button instead, and he gets through it. This will always work. That move, 8X, is a Throw Crush. So no matter when I try and grab this Lucario, this move will always beat grabs. It will always go through them. So any attack will tech a grab, but if you want to beat the grab, that's what you use. So let's update this real quick. So you might be asking now, alright, so what moves actually have the Throw Crush property? Well, universally, 8X in dual phase is always a Throw Crush. On everybody, this button always will break grabs. Forward X. Homing. Homing will always throw tech. Always Throw Crush. So this is something you guys can keep in mind. But of course, everybody has a few more different Throw Crush moves. Allow me to demonstrate. So, I knock him down, I try and grab him, and he crushes. So this is a move that's, this property is unique to Lucario's 6Y. Not everybody's 6Y will Throw Crush. But Lucario's one specifically, his 6Y is a Throw Crush, and it will always beat grabs. Okay, so, somebody's coming up to you and using a lot of counter attacks. And they've got armor, it's really annoying to deal with, and grabbing them is a bit finicky. Isn't there another option to deal with it? Well, there is. Alright, so, you're going up against somebody, you want to attack them, but they're using their counter attacks and it's really annoying. You're losing to it, and you're getting beaten. What are we gonna do? Well, we could grab them, But, you know, they can release the charge early, they can dash cancel it. So, how are we gonna deal with it? Somebody is just countering all the time. So, there we go. So you probably saw that glass shattering effect. That's called a counter pierce. So all fully charged homing attacks will counter pierce. So don't try to counter them. That's one universal counter pierce that everybody has. Full charge counter attacks will counter pierce as well. So if two people charge the counter attacks at each other, the person who charges first will counter pierce and win. And then certain characters have specific moves that will counter pierce. For example, Pikachu Libre has her up XX move, and this move will counter pierce. Regardless of the charge, it will always counter pierce. Not every character has dedicated counter pierce buttons, so this is something that you do have to go and check with your individual characters, individual character guides, and see which ones of them have counter pierce options. The only universal ones are full charge counter attack and full charge homing in feud. So if you want to figure out which of your moves counter pierce, you just need to check your move list. The move list will tell you which moves will counter pierce. It will be listed next to the move's name and input. You will put there counter attack pierce. Okay, we're gonna need specific characters to demonstrate this one. Certain characters have moves that cheat. They have the counter attacks of property of absorbing a lot of hits, but they also have the property of an attack. So if someone tries to grab these specific armored attacks, they're gonna lose. Allow me to demonstrate. So, this is Mewtwo's Side Strike. This move is a bit special because it has armor, but it's also an attack. Observe. So that's why it's called red armor. When absorbing attacks, you turn red. Now you might be thinking, wow, that's really unfair, what the heck? Why is he allowed to do that? Well, the move's unsafe and block. That's the trade-off. So most red armored moves in this game have certain trade-offs like that make it dangerous to use them. It's a good panic button option, but there's usually some kind of drawback. In Mewtwo's case, Side Strike, not safe on block. Red armor will beat grabs, will beat attacks, it's very powerful, it does a lot of damage, but in Chandelier, and it's also safe on block too, for the most part. But in Chandelier's case, you can jump it. So that's the trade-off. And you probably notice as well that saddles her with two debuffs, because he does speed down and the attack down on the top right. And the subsequent, and if she tries to overheat with no buffs, she just gets a weak little flame. But that's basically the gist of it. So if you ever see yourself getting hit by things like Mewtwo's weird red attack that you can't do anything about, that's a red armor move. And those red armor moves are powerful because they break both grabs and attacks, and usually sometimes even counter attacks, but they usually have some kind of drawback. So you gotta consider them on a case-by-case basis. So, let's talk about winning feud phase. Alright, so, a lot of people might be wondering when they first hop in, what's the point of feud phase, you know? This is just a phase where like pretty much anything was shifted to duo. We hit them with this homing attack, now we're in duo phase, and this is where the combos come out. We hit him with one of these, duo phase, then the combos come out. This phase seems a bit extraneous, you know? All these moves are causing shift, we just chuck something at them. And while not everything was shift, you can't really get much combos in this mode, you know? You chuck projectiles at them maybe, chuck projectiles at them. Stuff like that. Well, allow me to show you the advantages of winning feud phase. I'm gonna ask you guys to keep an eye on the burst meter above my character portrait. We win feud phase, and we get a nice chunk of it. The duo not too much. Duo is where your damage comes in, but winning feud gives you the meter. This is where the meter comes in. And now, you're gonna get yourself a burst attack, faster than the other character. And here's the other thing that's useful about winning Field Phase. So when you win Field Phase, regardless of how you do it, the characters are usually in some kind of head stun when they're exiting it. This gives you better positioning. Sometimes some moves you can even get a hard knockdown, and you can start hitting them. So it's very useful for getting positioning. You may not be able to continue your pressure directly from Field Phase to Dual Phase, but you can start pressuring them immediately after entering that phase. And that's what's important about this. That's what's important about winning Field Phase. Oh right, recovering recoverable health. I totally forgot about that. Alright, there's light green in front and dark green behind. So the dark green is actually recoverable health. We call it Grey Life. Alright, here we go. There we go. So you can see, winning with Field Phase where you have Grey Life, it will recover some of it. So that's another important aspect. That's unless you have a healing move or healing support, that's pretty much the only way you're going to recover your Grey Life. So for characters who do end up using a lot of their health to do stuff, like Shadow Mewtwo or Blaziken, that's going to be something that you want to keep in mind. So, if you guys are familiar with fighting games, other types of fighting games, you might know of certain things called high properties. Certain moves with high, mid, or low properties. For example, attacks from the air usually considered highs. Attacks that are like sweeps and sweeps and low kicks and the like. Those are usually considered lows. And in games where you actually have to block standing or block crouching, those are important because if you wrong block them, you usually get hit. For example, if you try and block an overhit attack by crouching, you're gonna get opened up, and if you stand block and somebody tries and sweeps you, you'll get hit. Pokken has a one-button block system, so you don't have to worry about high, mid, and high and low blocking. But if you really want to get into the deeper end of Pokken, the high system is still there. Pikachu Libre's up and Y attack, it says that effective against airborne opponents. What this actually means is that this move will beat highs and mids. High properties come into play when deciding which two attacks will win. So this attack is a high. This attack is a high, and it will get beaten by Pikachu Libre's 8Y because it hits them out of the air. And this works regardless of the sizes and the hitbox and whatever. If Lucario dive kicks, it doesn't matter how far up or how close to the ground or how far up he is, he will always lose to that 8Y, because this 8Y is a dedicated anti-air button. And most characters have moves that will avoid certain properties. 8Y, for example, is usually an anti-air, and it's an anti-air because it avoids highs and mids. Let's demonstrate something that isn't an air attack. So this is a grounded attack. It's an overhead kick. And the 8Y works because it avoids mids and highs. And this attack is a mid-high. Some attacks might have combinations of properties, and if they do, then the other attack needs to avoid everything in that category in order to beat it. So for example, this avoids mids and highs. This attack is a mid-high, so it will get beaten. So this is something that won't come into play as much when you're first starting out. When you're first starting out, you can't get by just by blocking. You don't have to worry about it too much, because block will take care of you for everything. But if you want to get into the deeper areas of Pokken, you want to get into interactions between moves, you want to steal your turn back when you see something like this, and you want to just, you know what, it's my turn now. My turn now. I'm taking this turn back. This attack is a low attack. Let's say we want to use a move that avoids lows. There we go, we went over it. So visually, it doesn't matter what the hitbox is like, that attack will always avoid lows. This is Pikachu's up X, or 8X. One of the unique properties of it is that it avoids lows completely. Let's say Pikachu wants to poke with this move. You can beat it by using a move that avoids lows. Is there anything else I wanted to mention about... Anything else I wanted to mention about high properties? Yeah, I think I pretty much covered it. For the most part. Did I miss anything? I don't think I did, right? This is gonna be some basic FGC stuff. So if you guys already play fighting games, you might be familiar with this. But this is gonna be an explanation for interactions and the like. Alright, we're gonna talk about a concept that's universal across all fighting games. But if you've never played one before and you never went too deep into it, this is something that might be interesting for you guys to think about. One frame is 1/60th of a second. That's the measure of time that we use for fighting games. So let's say we hit them with something quick and non-committal, like that. It's a jab. It looks very quick, right? And it looks like the character recovers pretty quickly, and you can keep doing stuff after that. Now let's hit them with something a lot heavier. Look how Pikachu Libre is stuck on the floor like that. That means she's got a really long time before she can act again. So just by using your intuition, which move seems safer? This or this? The answer is probably this, right? This looks safer. And the reason for that is, every move when you hit somebody either on block or on hit, there's different values for how much advantage you get. And that's what the frame data of your character basically describes. And it looks like a lot of numbers if you boot it up and you've never seen a fighting game frame data chart before. But here's how you want to use it. You want to look at the on-block value. And that will allow you to determine which of your moves are the safest and unsafe. We'll start with talking about being plus. So let's say I hit them with this move. Notice how I beat the other character? That's because this move is +4. So what this means is I will be recovering 4 frames faster than the opponent. When I hit the opponent and they're blocking, they're stuck blocking for a bit. So what this means is I become unstuck before they get unstuck. And that means if we both use the same attack immediately after, my attack comes out first. It's faster. That's what it means to be plus. That's what happens when a move is at 0. If a move is 0 on block, we will clash. Because we both recover at the same time, and we both attack each other at the same time. So see, that move, -4 on block. That means I get stuck in the attacking animation for 4 frames longer than the opponent. The opponent will recover first. So at that point, if we both attack at the same time, the opponent will win. So that's called being minus. Now being minus is bad, you don't want that, but most moves will be minus. It just means that you can't freely press buttons immediately after. For example, if I press this button, I can't keep pressing because nothing they can do is fast enough to beat my fastest attack. They'll just lose to it. But if I'm minus, that means after that, it's not my turn. After that, it's not my turn, and I probably should do best if I back off and stop blocking. Remember this move earlier? It's blocked, and I literally cannot recover fast enough. To block. And that's called being unsafe. These are moves where you can't even recover fast enough to be defensive or back off or do anything. These moves are usually incredibly minus, and at that point, basically anything that the opponent uses, they will be able to beat you, unless they use an extremely slow move. So you look at your frame data sheet, you can see which moves are plus, which moves are minus. They even the community community frame data sheet for Pokken is actually color coded, so you can immediately tell which moves are safe, which moves are plus, which moves are minus, and which moves are unsafe, and incredibly unsafe, and so on and so forth. So that's frame data in a nutshell. And finally, I've got one more conversation topic we want to talk about before we start taking any random questions from the chat. Performing and dealing with Okizeme. So this is the definition. Okizeme. Your opponent is knocked down, you want to press the buttons. I'm gonna have the CPU try something. The CPU is going to attack. I gotta time it right. He's on the ground, and because he was pressing buttons, he gets hit. That's because we're attacking directly into him while he's still in his startup frames. Of course, you gotta time your Okizeme right, otherwise you're gonna get hit out of it. Like so. But if you do it right, there's nothing they can do about it, and it works everywhere. So that's an Okizeme. What else can you do on Wake Up, for example? Let's say you just get up and block instead. So now your attack Oki doesn't work anymore. But what else can we Oki them with? You can Oki them with Grab. And that will basically beat block. So that's an Okizeme. Basically, the opponent has to guess what you're gonna do, and you have the advantage to do whatever you want. So let's have the CPU wake up with counterattack this time. We knock him down, so we hit him with his Okizeme, but we lost. Because he used the counterattack to absorb our attack. He guessed that we were going to attack him. And he responded accordingly. And now he's gonna beat us. Like so. But because grabs beat counterattacks, we can grab him on Wake Up. And that will beat him. Consistently. It's always an option. And as you probably would have briefly glimpsed just now, we can also try to outlast the counterattack. Because certain moves will linger long enough to catch the end of the counterattack. So doing a counter on Wake Up is an option, but isn't always the safest option. Let's have them do a different thing now. So that's another option you can do out of Wake Up. Jumping. Of course, if someone attempts to meet you with one of these moves, you're still gonna get hit. So that goes back into the height property stuff we were talking about earlier. This is where sometimes you're gonna have to play the height game. But at the end of the day, the opponent that's actually hitting you, they're the ones who are gonna have they're the ones who have the advantage, because if you guess wrong, you're taking damage. And if they guess wrong, usually the situation is just a reset to neutral. Doesn't make much difference. So waking up counter means you're vulnerable to counter pierces. So I demonstrated a few of the different Okizemes people can do. They can attack Okizeme, they can grab Okizeme, or they can try and like counter-attack Okizeme. So the safest option, if you really don't know what to do, is just to do this. Just hold your block. Wake up with a block. Because this beats attack Oki. This beats counter-attack Oki. And you basically stay safe for the most part. And as you probably noticed, even if you do take a grab while blocking, the damage isn't that much, for the most part. So you can get away with it sometimes. Sometimes, the correct answer is just to play safe and hold block. That will do you well just as a starting tip. Because a lot of people, when they first start out, they're gonna press buttons when they wake up. But blocking is always the safest option. Most players will be like, I'm gonna stop pressing buttons, I'm gonna try and get out of the corner. But you're gonna lose to attack Oki, and that's how you lose all your life. That pretty much should be all the basics you need to get started with Pokken, beyond just what's in the tutorial. If you take these tips and apply them properly and do a little bit of homework about your character, you should be able to get a decent leg up on your competition. So, this is Chandelier's Jump 8X. Now let me turn on my input display. There you go. So you guys can see this now. Alright, so this is Jump and Up and X. Right? So this would be written as J8X. They just go straight up. If we press, let's say 7X for example though, you go backwards. And if we press 9X, you go forwards. So for the most part, 1, 3, 7, and 9, they will do the same move as one of the other directions, but they have a slight difference in angle. So this is one of the easiest, this is one of the most easily viewed visual ones. This is just regular jump X, this is forward diagonal, this is back diagonal. So they're all just variants of this jump up X, but they do go in different directions. And sometimes you need to be able to do the right direction in order for a combo to work. And that's why you need those sometimes.